everyone, it's an aging zombie here. Weekend 1 of Battlefield 6 beta has completed, and I wanted to make a video talking about my thoughts so far on the game and go over a few things I liked about the beta and a few things I disliked. Starting off with the likes, and the first thing I want to discuss is the core gameplay mechanics of movement and gunplay. I think the movement system is pretty solid. The game does not feel overly fast while not feeling overly slow when compared to other modern shooters. Traversing the map, even when it's rubble filled from all the destroyed buildings, feels very intuitive. Sliding and diving is not over the top, and the supine position, it's always great to have, and it both looks and feels good in this game. The new drag mechanic for fallen squad / teammates is a really cool addition that I also think works really well. And when it comes to the gunplay, for the most part, I think the weapons are actually really well balanced, and I do like the attachment system they've implemented. For the weapons that I did try in the beta, I never really felt that using a certain weapon was just off the table, and I was able to succeed with every weapon that I tried. And the only real exception to this was that damn shotgun. That thing was definitely a little OP, but from what I saw in a tweet, they've already done a weapon balance patch, it just never went into the beta. For the attachments, I like this point system that they've brought in for adding attachments to your gun. It very much feels like the point system from Insurgency Sandstorm, and I think it's a good way to balance having OP attachments in every slot available on your weapon, and players are going to have to really think about how they want to build out their weapons. The next like I have for this game is the sound design, and I don't really have too much to say about it, but overall, the sound team cooked for this one. I think everything just sounded great, from the guns to the vehicles to explosions and all of the ambient noise, and in addition, the directional audio seemed pretty spot on. I was able to hear enemies around me and locate them fairly quickly and accurately. The next thing I liked was the maps for this game. I think they are designed fairly well. I enjoyed the varied sizes for them, and I think they played out very well. When it comes to the design and size, I enjoyed the difference of being in confined streets and alleyways on Siege of Cairo compared to the more open mountain sides of Liberation Peak. And when it comes to how well they played, I do want to point out that I really only played Breakthrough, so this could be different for Conquest, but I enjoyed the flow of each map, and I liked the different paths that players could take to capture or defend the different objectives. The last thing in the light category is field specs. So I like the addition of having these perk style things that you can have for each character class that provides various passive abilities and then an active ability that you can gain as the match goes on. These perks are very class specific, and I like the bonuses that they have for each class, like for the engineer having your rockets make repairing a vehicle a little slower for like 10 seconds after your rocket hits. Now, let's talk about some of the things that I disliked from the beta, and up front, none of these things I would consider major. These are all fairly minor things, and some of them is definitely just me being nitpicky. Starting off with the dislikes is actually tied to the very last like I mentioned, and that is the field specs, and why do we actually have to wait for each of these abilities? I think the main reason why I don't necessarily like this is because I can't figure out a good gameplay reason why the delay is needed. Maybe someone out there can make a good argument as to why it's needed, but I just can't see it, and I just think, well, just give us these bonuses from the very beginning. The next dislike is again tied to something I mentioned in the like parts of the video, and that is recoil on guns. Some of the guns were pretty wild until you started adding attachments to them. And then it almost was the reverse, where the gun just felt like a laser beam. And part of me thinks, well, yeah, that's how it should be. Attachments are meant to improve the gun, but I do think it's a bit egregious, the discrepancy that can be seen between a stock gun and a kitted gun. Now again, they did say this is part of the weapons balance patch that I had mentioned earlier, so hopefully it will be better later on. The next dislike I have is the awkward delay of reviving a player that you are dragging. So when you go to drag a down player out of combat and heal them, a timer starts and you start pulling the character, and you also just take out the syringe and hold it in your hand to heal them. You have that amount of time to like drag the player to cover but sometimes I get them to cover fairly quick, and then for the rest of the time, you're just awkwardly crouched there over them with this syringe in your hand. Now, I understand the logic behind the timer and all, but I just think it's weird crouching there doing nothing. So I think if they just maybe reworked the animation a little, maybe you inject them right away as you're dragging them, but it just takes the whole time for the injector to finish. Not 100% sure on a fix, but just something to kind of fill that awkwardness. I think it's mainly just the weird animation of just standing there with the syringe in your hand doing nothing that is my issue. Now the last thing here in the dislikes, and this is definitely going to be a very minor thing, and that is it needs to be clearer who is the squad leader. The squad leader can mark objectives and give orders to their squad, so knowing who it is, especially if it's me, is somewhat important. I personally like marking objectives if I'm the squad leader, and will also follow orders from squad leaders because it's a good way to get extra score, and then also a good way to communicate with your squad if no one is using a mic. So having a clear way to quickly determine who is the squad leader would be great if they added it in. And that's going to wrap this video up. Like I've said in other videos on this beta, I'm enjoying this a lot currently, and I do think this game has a potential to take a good chunk of the FPS market. Hope everyone enjoyed the video, and until the next one, peace.